Hello, nerds for Yang.
Hello, nerds!
Hello, nerds! Hello, nerds!
Hello, nerds! So nerds!
Hello, nerds!
Now with this campaign,
bang, dang, it's and Drew, come roll with the Yang Gang.
Hello, nerds.
Hello, nerds for Trump.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah, booyah. Got you there.
Coming out punching already, my friend.
All right, we're ready. We're excited.
I don't know what I'm walking into here. So let's just give people a little background. So you and I, as we are commonly do, we have a little family political discussion chat area. And I think you were asking me about Black Lives Matter. And I was like, yeah, of course I support it. And you're like, yeah, I'm not surprised all you Marxists support BLM. And then there was also some discussion about, you know, the motives and kind of severity of the problem. So we both thought, like, you know what, this kind of probably reflects a lot of conversations that are going on in the country. The difference is usually the two sides don't talk to each other. Usually the all lives matter people hang out in their circle, and then the Black Lives Matter people hang out in their circle. So in the spirit of Nerds for Humanity being a sort of platform for thoughtful conversations, we're here now together. Peter, MAGA USA. You even have branded your name before you were afraid to call yourself MAGA. So I guess you're still MAGA.
I'm coming full out MAGA. Coming full out MAGA. And, you know, a few weeks ago when we had a little bit discussion when this whole George Floyd situation was hitting the streets, I was a little bit more, I held back. And I talked to you afterwards off air camera saying that I wish I really said what was on my mind.
Oh,
yeah. And I'm going to do that today. I'm going to do that today. So don't worry. Of course, one thing I just want to be completely clear about is that my intention to go on your show, if I can just convert one or two of your listeners to MAGA and voting for Trump and not supporting BLM, then I would have considered a useful of my time today.
Well, how about we say this? Maybe we can agree that hopefully because of our conversation, people think about the issues from different perspectives. And if some people change their position because they decide that, you know, they're convinced, then that's great. Could be either direction. But of course, I understand that you're looking to pick off some BLM people.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think a lot of you people are misguided and you've been brainwashed. And, you know, what can I say?
Okay. Well, before we get into it, do you think these are connected, like Trump 2020, MAGA, BLM? I mean, even you were also saying COVID is kind of tied into this. Do you feel like they're all part of the same thing, or can we like unpack them individually, or do you think they're kind of symbiotic?
They could be part of the same thing, and I'm glad you're bringing that up. So I think, and there's other people that believe that same way, that BLM kind of like raises its stature every 4 years. You know, the last time maybe during the last presidential elections. And this COVID situation, I mean, it's definitely playing into the Democrats' playbook and hurting our chances of re-election because of the economy and all that. And I do want to talk a little bit about the BLM potentially have been spreading the COVID.
Okay, so
intentionally or unintentionally. And I'll talk about that, yeah, because we had a huge spike in cases right after the whole riots.
So before we get into that, do we agree that COVID is a serious national issue and a national health problem, or are you of the mind that it's kind of overblown?
I think it's overblown. I'm not sure. Having said that, I wash my hands, religiously, and I walk around with different masks. And, me and mom were yesterday at the bank, and everything's, separated. We're at Trader Joe's, and, even any place, Publix, Trader Joe's, so not promoting any particular supermarket. Everyone's very careful. Yet during the whole Black Lives Matter protest, riots, whatever you want to call it, everyone's like screaming, shouting, hands touching microphones, people attacking the police. Obviously, if you got COVID, you're going to spread it. And apparently that was okay.
Yeah, so before we get into that, I've heard that argument before. I've heard people say like, oh, like nobody complained about the BLM protesters, but they complained about the Tulsa rally, right?
Or church.
Or the church. Where was that? Arizona, maybe? Yeah. I guess let's try and decouple though. Do you agree that it is a national problem and it's a sort of top problem, or do you think it's just this manufactured problem to make
race relations or COVID?
COVID.
What are you talking about?
COVID.
I'm not sure, Tom. I do think that one thing is that the mainstream media is overblowing it. What they're not tracking is that the death rate, mortality rate is coming down. We have 130,000 deaths so far and close to 4 million infected. And I'm going to say that probably out of the 130,000, I'm just going to go straight out there, half of them are not COVID. Because what happens is if it was a pre-existing condition or they weren't sure about it, they're going to label it as COVID.
Okay, so we talked about this last time.
Yeah, I think we did. Yeah,
you were here, and at the time, the death rate was not going up. Let me see if I can share my screen here. So we have some of the data. Now we have a little more data.
Okay.
And you see the last 14 days are these dark gray bands. And you can see that actually they are, the last 2 weeks, they have started coming out. These are the total deaths. Like, look at Florida. I mean, that, and Texas and Arizona. So there's no question that reported deaths for people who have COVID have gone up. Now, you could take the position that, oh, they're going up, but I think you're arguing they would have died anyway. Is that your position?
No, I'm saying that if the government wasn't sure whether the death was COVID or not, and I'm sure that if you look back 2 years from now, seasonal flu deaths probably are going to be down, but COVID probably replaced that. So every year we have 60 to 100,000. We talked about that die of seasonal flu. I'm going to bet. I'm willing to bet money that those deaths are going to be underreported this year.
Okay, but right now the average U.S. flu deaths last few years was closer to 40,000, and now we're at 130,000 COVID deaths. So even if you assume the first 40,000 would have died of the flu anyway, how do you explain the additional 90,000?
Well, I was saying that's where the whole pre-existing conditions are. So, like, I'm sorry if someone's like very elderly or very obese, or maybe they have cancer. I mean, that's a horrible thing, but they might have already died anyways, and it just complicates the situation,
Yeah, that's but that's still a problem though, right? If people die, I mean, you could take that argument to an extreme and say, well, then if you die, you're going to die eventually.
I mean, if you
where
take
do you draw the line?
Extreme.
Where do you?
But,
is it okay to die like a week early?
You asked me like what I thought about the COVID situation. I'm just telling you. Number one, I really don't know. Number two, I think it's overhyped by the media. But number three, I'm being very careful. I'm probably more careful. I've had my COVID tests multiple times, as you know, and I, have broken dates with girls because I don't want to get infection. Right.
And you do agree that that 130,000 people dying It's now actually 136,000. Sorry, 136,000 from COVID that we know of. I mean, there also could have been people who died that didn't get tested, because you can't get a test in like 10 minutes.
You can. You get the COVID test results within 10 minutes.
So do you know how many tests were done in February and March?
I have no idea.
Very few. And
Yeah.
and that's why we had to surge the testing, but people died. So the same way that there could be people who you're saying are getting counted who would have died anyway, the opposite is also true. There probably are people who died of COVID that we will never know about it.
It could be, but I think it's more likely the other way. I mean, there's some people circulating around that they get an extra $30,000, $10,000 by the government if it's COVID-related death. I don't know why that would be the case.
Oh, so you're saying that the hospitals,
yeah,
are purposely coding a death as COVID to get money from the government?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some videos on that. I mean, again, I don't really subscribe to that. I don't really fully understand that. But I do believe that I'm hopefully optimistic that 3 months from now, come the election, that this whole COVID thing will be well behind us, and we will be having a big re-election party coming up in November.
Okay, so why do you think it'll be behind us though?
Well, I think we're seeing a surge in cases. And I think the first few months was targeted amongst the elderly. And that's why you had more deaths and fatalities. And now it's going to be the younger people who are more, able to withstand it, And we know more about the virus nowadays. So we're doing smarter stuff. Like, we're not just automatically putting them on, ventilators. Yeah. We just know how to deal with the virus better.
Right, but that would not explain why there are more people dying now than 2 weeks ago, if you believe that argument, right?
Well, I don't know, maybe because the
total deaths. So it's even worse than what we think, because if you're right that we're getting better at treating and there are more people dying, then it's really terrible.
Well, I don't see that number jumping up that much. You're at 136,000. Right? It's not like it's gone up to 500,000, although you might even hit that level at some point.
Yeah, I don't know if we'll get to 500,000, but certainly 130,000. I mean, 130,000 people died, dude.
I won't be surprised if we put it this way. I think you and I both know we will hit 200,000.
Mm-hmm.
Do you agree with me on that?
I don't know, but it's likely. But you seem okay with it.
I'm not okay with it, but I'm just running the numbers.
Right. So then why is it that you think that it'll go away by November and that we celebrate Trump's victory? How does that happen?
I think that more people will get infected and then it'll become less of an issue.
Oh, so your hope is that we have like a giant infection, like Corona party, and just get everybody infected. But the mortality rate still, even with it down, is if it's 1 or 2%, if everybody out of 300 million, 10% would be 30 million, that's 3 million people dying. I don't think we want that.
I think we did the math. It's not 1 or 2%, Tom.
Okay, even if it's 0.1%, it's 300,000 people. And so which would you rather have? We continue the lockdown to reduce the
lockdown
acceleration.
Open it up.
Okay, so this is almost like a death panel discussion, right?
No. Actually, here's what I think that the government should have done better. Each city government should have paced the openings more smartly. They should have did a little bit more tests. And they should have maybe opened up like one area at a time. And I don't even know why they would open up bars. That was crazy, even though I love drinking and partying. That made no sense at all.
You live in Florida, which is run by a Republican governor who's been
He's a great governor. Yeah, DeSantis. He's an amazing guy.
And so he was very clear for months that this was overreaction and that the reopening should have gone faster. But you yourself are now saying that it was too fast, but he's still a wonderful guy.
Look, I think that we could have done a better job when Trump, let me tell you two things we should have did. When Trump shut down travel to China, I think, and I told you on this show, that we should have shut down travel to Europe. Also, either him or Cuomo in New York should have did mandatory testing at the 3 New York airports, JFK, LaGuardia, and New York Airport, at least for 5,000 people or 50,000 people. And then we would have had a really good idea back in end of January what the infected numbers were coming into our country. That's number one. Number two, when we reopened, maybe we should have like did a little test case and how the place reopened. I won't mention the name of a bar or club that I went to a test reopening party back in May or June, I can't remember, in Miami Beach. And instead of bringing 20 girls per table, we bring 3 girls per table. And again, by 2 hours and everyone's starting to drink, everyone's starting mingling, people are mingling table to table. And then basically, if anyone had the virus, it would have spread. So I think from there, you would have observed that stuff ain't gonna work.
Right, but when you and I, in our family political debate chat, talked about this, and I was harping on where's the plan from Trump to deal with COVID, one of your arguments was this is a local issue.
I still think it's a local issue. I still think that the cities.
So here's where you're wrong.
Okay.
When you're dealing with a virus and a global pandemic, you cannot allow every state to willy-nilly decide on how the mitigation strategy should work, unless you're willing to build a wall in between each state. But right now, America is borderless between states. You're for open borders between states, right?
So you have this deep state in the Trump and the CDC that maybe is screwing things up.
Your so-called deep state had a very specific list of criteria for states to reopen, which the states ignored.
Well, then what can we do? I think Trump wanted to send in the National Guard, but the states said no.
He wanted to send in the National Guard for BLM, not for COVID.
No. I think even for COVID, anyhow, for our own family group chats, and even on this channel, I've been a huge proponent of martial law.
You don't need martial law for the states to comply with the CDC reopening plan.
What I'm saying is, if we had martial law, we had this whole country locked down militarily, then there wouldn't have been any darn reopening, or if the reopening would have done in a more structured national way.
So how do we reconcile the two statements you've made so far? One is that DeSantis is great and that we should reopen. And then 2 is that we should have a military lockdown from the National Guard.
You could have had both. I mean, like, the whole thing is like, I wish we had a military style national lockdown, but that's not how it works. This whole thing is under states' rights. So California, which is the Democrat governor, is in charge of California.
But your original position is that we should open up as soon as possible so that we just liberate the economy and just take the deaths as they come, right?
No, that's not my original position. Okay, so my original position back in January.
No, I mean in this conversation.
Okay, so let's talk about what we do right now. Okay, let's forget about what happened in the past, about the Wuhan virus. Okay, the Wuhan virus.
The Kung flu.
The Kung flu.
The Kung flu.
So Kung Fu virus. Is that what he said?
Kung flu.
Kung flu virus. Okay. All right. So what we do right now is, obviously, you have a paced opening. You run test cases, and maybe they're going to argue.
Okay, so what if states decide? What if like Texas says, "Nah, we're Texas. We don't play those rules. We're tough." And then those Texans come over to Miami to party.
What does the Constitution say? I don't know. The Constitution is a great document. What does the Constitution allow?
Well, the Constitution doesn't have a COVID section, but the Constitution does have the executive branch, which has the power to enforce executive orders as well as to withhold funding. So he could refuse to sign bills that provide funding to the states if they don't comply. He could refuse to sign bills to provide COVID relief if a state's taking the money, but then just like opening up prematurely. Would you be supportive of that? I think you have to decide. You have to decide if you support Trump.
I do support
whether
Trump.
you want to reopen fast for the economy because this thing is a hoax, or what if you want to do a stage reopening. If you want to do stage reopening, then you have to have teeth. You can't just, I mean, we know what happens when the CDC publishes stuff and just kind of like, it gets put in a filing cabinet. You have to have money, basically, which is what he's doing with the school reopening, because he's saying you're not going to get the federal funds for your public schools if you don't reopen. Mm-hmm. So we know that he's willing to influence the states. I mean, I don't see a lot of people talking about states' rights when he's making those threats against the states. It seems like you use that card like when it's to your advantage, but it's not consistent.
Oh, look, Tom, you asked me about the COVID thing. I'm not sure whether it's a hoax or not. I think that right now, probably they're learning as they go along, you know, so, you know, we'll see.
All right. So for the COVID thing, I think we've talked about that enough. My position is that there should be a national plan, and that national plan should be implemented, and it should not be left to the states. The same way as the states don't develop rules for air safety. This affects all of us.
Part of the problem is this virus is it's a foreign invasion. I mean, whether you want to call it an invasion from Wuhan or the Kung Fu virus, whatever, but it's basically like a biological warfare into the U.S. But
well, hold
it's
on
not.
Whoa! Be careful. When you talk about it as an invasion and warfare, you're basically insinuating that this was some coordinated effort from another.
No. I'm not saying that. Let me just.
Well, then why would you call it warfare and an invasion?
Well, it's because it's like a war. We're at war. We're fighting this virus like a war. But the problem is, there's no actual foreign boots on the ground. Obviously, if it was like Martians invading the U.S., then yeah, the national government, the federal government would be marshaling all the resources, and you would see, armored vehicles on city streets. The problem is that this is not a Martian invasion.
Yeah, but you don't need military boots on city streets. What you need is a plan with phases of mitigation. You need metrics, you need gating criteria, and those need to be enforced by the federal government. Otherwise, every state just does their own thing, in which case you end up with this world where it's like enforcing a non-smoking rule in a restaurant, and every table decides if they want to abide by it. Then it screws everybody.
Yeah. I think a lot of people don't realize, and maybe you also don't realize, and a lot of my Asian and European friends don't realize, is that America is a lot more like the EU than we realize. It's basically a assortment of states that formed a union.
It is, but the federal government. Oh, is mom screaming in the background?
In the background, talking to Griselda. Yeah.
Oh my God. Is there another room you can go into?
No, she's supposed to have the door closed. Mom, close the door.
I feel like we're back in high school, dude. Can you ask her to close the door?
I can't get out of my seat to close the door. You want me to get out of the seat and close the door?
Yeah, just go and close it.
Take 10 seconds. All right.
Do it.
I don't know why. All right, fine. Oh, the door was actually closed.
Oh,
the door was. Yeah.
Can you ask her to go to a?
No.
Literally, I can hear the whole conversation.
I can't hear it though, because I have my earplugs in.
Yeah, dude.
Shit, man, I don't know what to do, man.
Just ask her to keep it down.
Dude, I can't do that.
Why not?
All right, let me ask.
Just say that we're in the middle of a live stream. There's like 80 people watching us right now. All right.
Is it better? Is it?
Yeah, kind of. Well, I mean, the good news is that she's healthy enough to speak at a very robust volume. All right. So you were saying like, oh man, you know, you can't tell the states what to do, but you can, man, and you don't need boots on the ground. You don't.
Well, Tom, can we talk about the BLM?
All right. So we're gonna park the COVID stuff. So the BLM. Do you want to start, or do you want me to start? Do you want to kind of state your position, or do you want me to state mine, and then you can, whatever you prefer.
I think we should both, one of us should state the position, and I'm going to state my position for sure. Yeah, you state your position. I'm kind of curious, and then I'll state my position, and then we'll have a talk.
I worry that you're going to agree with my position, and then it
God.
won't be an interesting conversation, but we'll do it.
Should I give you my position first?
Yeah, you should start first. I think
you promise not to change your position?
Oh, I'm sure I won't change my position based on anything you say.
Okay. All right. Well,
I'm just kidding.
That's horrible.
Just kidding. I'll keep an open mind, bro.
Okay, look, so let's just start from the genesis of what we're talking about, the George Floyd incident. Now, 99.9% of the people in the world, including myself, have said it's a murder. But now I'm not really sure it's a murder. Look at the video so many times. And then everyone seems to say that it was racial animus. And now I'm not so sure whether it was racial animus. I mean, like, who's to say that he was racially motivated to kill him? And I don't think he's going to get convicted of murder. I think at most he will be convicted of manslaughter, because I don't think he intentionally murdered George Floyd. And maybe to his defense, maybe like George Floyd did have some drugs in his body as well as COVID. And talking about that, like, I was wondering, why would the police officer want to force George Floyd's face to the ground? Then it dawned to me, maybe if I'm a police officer and there's a very tall, perpetrator, doesn't matter what race, and we're in a COVID environment, he's shouting and screaming, whatever, maybe I don't want COVID in my face. Maybe I want the guy facing away from me. And actually that knee to the neck thing, because I took Krav Maga, that is a technique that they use in the military, and also I think I've seen in state police, to subdue a perpetrator so that the officer or the military can get a handcuffs, to handcuff the guy. Now, and again, I know that guy was already handcuffed, but it's a way that you can subdue a attacker, or whatever you want to call it, a person, and then also reach for your weapon, reach for your handcuffs and stuff. And my other belief is that BLM is largely a political movement. And I think it's a very smartly worded political movement, because no one's going to disagree with Black Lives Matter, the statement, because if you disagree with Black Lives Matter, then you might appear racist, right? So, however, BLM as a movement is pretty much democratic. And BLM as a movement, openly on its website, you can check, it's still there, says one of its main tenets is the destruction of the nuclear family. That is the father, mother, and children. I don't know why they would want that. And obviously, BLM is donating to Democratic candidates and PACs. So, like, I just want to make sure all you Trumpers, for Yang, all the people that had supported Trump, do not donate money to BLM, because basically it's a Democratic cause. It's a Trojan horse. And what else can I say about the BLM? Yeah, I mean, there's more. I mean, I've got other notes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think with regards to the Floyd killing, you agree that they sat on his back and his neck after they cuffed him, not just while they were trying to cuff him, right?
Yeah, I agree. But maybe they were afraid that he was going to turn around and spit on them.
Okay. They actually have ways to deal with that. There's a kind of a cap they can put on someone, like a hood.
Oh, that would look really good on video.
Well, it's better than killing someone. If someone's spitting at you.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure that. So are you saying it was self-defense?
I'm saying that a good self-defense lawyer would be able to tear up that whole.
Yeah. You know
Yeah.
what I would say? I actually think the Floyd case is arguing over the details of the Floyd case. I feel like we should just let the courts take care of that.
Sure.
Who knows? You know, like we can. I mean, there are people who said that Rodney King was not he was treated appropriately and whatever. People can make their arguments. For me, I don't actually support the formal Black Lives Matter organization. I think there's two types of supporters for BLM. There's people who are lockstep in favor of whatever is on the Black Lives Matter website, including this argument that, let me share the screen so people know, because I think it's a fair point.
I feel sorry for a lot of red-blooded Americans, beautiful people that I see donating to the BLM movement, having no idea that they're donating money to this organization that wants to destroy the American family.
Well, what they say, that let's be fair, I don't think they say we want to destroy they just want to disrupt the prescribed nuclear family structure by requirement. Just disrupt the requirement by supporting each other as extended families that care for one another, especially our children, to the degree that mothers, parents, and children are comfortable. I don't know if that's the same as destroying families. I think what they're saying is that neighborhoods and communities should do more to support each other, that it shouldn't be left exclusively to the traditional structure if those families want more help and want to give more help. I'm just reading what it says here. We disrupt the Western prescribed nuclear family structure requirement is the key word, by supporting each other as extended families and villages that collectively care for one another, our children, to the degree that mothers, parents, and children are comfortable. Do you still feel like that statement means destruction of the family? I think it means disruption of the requirement.
I don't know what that means, to be honest, Tom. They should be pro-family. Why they should be anti-family? I mean, look, the other thing that you as well as I know from data is that Black youths are 5 times more likely to come from a single family household and not know who their father is. Or a Black woman is highly likely to have multiple children with different fathers. And that has a huge effect on the young men growing up in America. So if anything, I would want Black Lives Matter as a movement to be supporting the family and not going against it. Makes no sense.
In those cases where there is only one parent, which I don't think is exclusive to one race, by the way, but in those cases where
those statistics are rising across the U.S. Okay, so it's like 80% of all Black youths grow up in a single-family household. 50% of all.
Yeah, what I'm saying is, I think it's a false narrative to say that single-parent families are exclusively the provenance of the African American community. There are plenty of single-parent other families. Now, you could argue like it's more prevalent.
It's more prevalent.
That's probably true. Yeah, and there are probably good reasons for that, which we could go into. But I don't think it's entirely the fault of the individuals. I think there are some systemic kind of disadvantages and kind of cultural, basically post-slavery kind of reconstruction issues that are still rearing their heads. But let's just stop for a second. You're mad that there's a lot of these single parent families. So you're saying, well, these kids are not growing up with role models, blah, 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 right?
Whether they be white, Black, or Asian, or Spanish, I mean, whatever,
right,
yeah.
Whatever. Now, this organization is saying, hey, when that requirement is not met, when there aren't 2 parents, we think families should still support each other. And somehow you interpret that as an attack. I could argue that they're actually trying to acknowledge a problem and come up with a solution that is realistic. I mean, with a 50% divorce rate for all races, the average globally is 50%. Like, that's a real deal. Like, single parent families are not going to go away. And so why is it so terrible that when extended families and neighborhoods want to help each other out, why is that like somehow anti-family?
I think you can help each other out and also be in a family. But one of the things I want to touch on, and it's completely off topic to this, but back on the whole BLM thing, is like the U.S. is the least racist country in the whole world. I dare you. Yeah.
Hold on. Before you go there.
Yeah.
Let me finish what I was saying, which was there are some people who support BLM lock, stock, and barrel, like the full, the formal, and whatever. I actually think that's a small percentage of the country.
Did you know that there's millions of black people that do not support the BLM?
I'm sure there's millions of every people that's on any position. What does that mean? That doesn't mean anything. There's millions of white people that probably support BLM. Does that mean it's instantly the right?
Well, I'm just saying that for those out there that do not support BLM, you don't have to be afraid of being called racist, because not even all black people support BLM, and because maybe those black people realize that that organization or that movement doesn't do the right thing.
Yeah, I think, well, I mean, I support the message that people should make up their own minds and they shouldn't feel embarrassed. They should just make decisions based on data and logic. And what I was trying to advocate to you is that I think a lot of MAGA, Trump sort of people who are really fired up about BLM assume that the vast majority of the Democratic Party agrees with everything that's on this Black Lives Matter website. And that's not true. I think the vast majority of Democrats, when they say they support BLM, what they mean is that they agree that there is a problem with the law enforcement and criminal justice system, and it results in unfair treatment of some, probably many, based on the color of their skin, and that should be fixed. That's all. But I think the Republican Party, the same way you're saying the Democratic Party politicizes COVID, I think the Republican Party politicizes BLM. I think the Republican Party wants it to seem like everybody that supports BLM is anti-family somehow and Marxist. But all we're saying is like, look, there's a lot of people getting killed. There's example after example.
There's only 50, and I want to say only, there's 50 people on average killed by police a year. The same number of police are also killed every year.
How are you saying there's 50 people that die at the hands of police every year in America? Where did you get that number?
I mean, you Google it. I mean, I screenshotted it. I don't want to go through the thing. You know, it's true. Those are the numbers.
Police each year in America.
50. It's 50, give or take. And every year of that 50, 10 to 20 are black, and the rest are white. There's more whites killed by the police than blacks. Hold on. And blacks are 5 times more likely to be in police incidences than whites. So that explains why there's a high incidence of blacks being killed.
Okay, here I have some data from the Atlantic. I haven't read this article.
Half of the police murders, the police being killed, are killed by blacks. You can go to FBI.org for that.
FBI says there were 435 homicides by police officers in 2016. Not 50, 435.
How can I send you some of my screenshots? Google it again from another another source. I don't, you know, it's
All
not
right, hold on.
500. It's not 500, dude. It's only 50.
Let's see. Wait, hold on. Let me see what else they say here. There were 1,146 victims of police violence. 52% were white, and 26% were black. So this is actually over 1,000 victims of police violence. Now, I don't know if violence means death. Oh,
It's probably not deaths.
It is, because it's authors focus on years of life lost. Yeah, the database of police killed by police.
Police killed by police?
Database of people killed by police. Everyone who died at the hands of police.
How many? It's not 500.
1,000. 1,000.
Per year? No way.
In 2015. Okay, so what do you want me to Google? You tell me.
Or can I just send you my screenshots?
Yeah, yeah, send it to me any way you want. I'll pick it up.
Let me see if I can do it.
And then while you're doing that, let me see if I can find another source, because if you don't like the Atlantic, how about Statista? People shot to death by police. Yeah, it's also in the hundreds. And in 2020, well, 2020 is not done yet, but 2019, there were 235 killed just of blacks, and then 150 Hispanics. And let's see the source. Oh, I got to sign up for the service. Where is the source on this guy? Show sources information. Oh, stop telling me to sign in. So I've got two sites now that are saying it's in the hundreds. And then we got Washington Post. 999 fatally shot and killed in 2019. Where are you getting this 50 number?
Yeah, I got it. I'm looking around for it. I mean, it is 50.
All right, let me see if I'll look at one more source while you're doing it.
Yeah.
This is the NIH. This is a government website. All fatalities, N equals 812, resulting from lethal force from 2009 to 2012 in 17 states. So there were 800 across 3 years in only 17 states. So we're in the hundreds no matter what. It's not 50.
Okay, so reading this from the USA Today. For the last 5 years, the police have fatally shot about 1,000 civilians annually.
Okay, so that's more than 50.
The vast majority of who are armed or otherwise dangerous. Black people accounted for 23% of those shot and killed by police. They were about 13% of the U.S. population. But obviously not all 1,000 would have died, right? You know what I'm saying?
No, I thought you said, could you reread it?
This is from USA Today. It said like about 1,000 people in general are shot annually by the police.
Okay. So, 1,000, let's say 25% die. That's still 250, dude.
Let me do this. Let me dig up the data and send it to you after this phone call. Like, unless, yeah.
Yeah, and then what I can do is what I promise this, whatever data you send me, I'll put a link and I'll pin it in the comments saying this is the additional data that Peter provided.
Yeah. So basically, we talked about this before. There are proportionally more black people killed by the police than the white people proportionally. But you have to also understand that the blacks are also proportionally 5 times or 10 times more likely to be involved in police incidences called by 911 calls into the black neighborhoods. And I think nationally, there's 9,000 to 10,000 black on black deaths a year, killings a year. So, I mean, whilst, you know, my point is that you have 50 or so deaths nationally.
Hey, oh no, we lost you, buddy. All right, well, while Peter tries to come back in, as you can see, our family has quite a diversity of different opinions about everything. And what I was going to share with Peter was what he's doing. I've noticed other people do, which is say like, oh, you know, black people kill more black people than white people. And, oh, Peter, I hear you now. Are you there? Oh, hold on.
Yeah. Back.
Oh, let me
remove. Oh my goodness.
Hold on.
Yeah, remove one.
Let me remove one. Remove. All right. So I feel like what you're doing is a very common Republican MAGA approach, which is you're kind of marginalizing the problem. I think what you're doing is you're saying, okay, number one, we don't really know if Floyd was, you know, spitting at the policeman, or if you know, he was hopped up on drugs, whatever. So you're casting doubt about that, and then you're saying, oh, and by the way, like, more black people die at the hands of black people than white people. Isn't that right? Is that what you were saying before you froze?
I did say that. I'm just, whoa, that we have this echo.
Oh, hold on. Let me kick from the studio. You're probably less echo now.
Okay. My point is that if BLM as a movement really cared about black lives, excuse me, they would be worried about single family households. They would be worried about the horrible effects of hip hop music, arcade video games, you know, like where they're teaching people to rape and kill, and drugs, and a whole plethora of other things. That, you know, like if I wanted to protect black lives, I would not be worrying about so much the police killing the black lives, but the other black lives that are killed by whatever. I'm pretty sure there's more illegal immigrants killing the black lives through hit and run accidents than the police are every year, but you don't hear about that.
Oh, so you're saying more Mexicans kill blacks than police officers?
I didn't say Mexicans. I said illegal immigrants. You know, you put Mexicans.
From where?
It could be anywhere, any country.
Okay. So,
but no, I'm sure about that. I'm 100% sure about that. That, you know, you have all these illegals running around, and, you know, no one seems to care. There was someone that was killed in the Chaz in Seattle, a black youth, 19-year-old. What's his name? You don't know his name. Yeah, he was killed.
Dude, I don't know most people that names that died, but that doesn't change the logic.
No, but why do we know about George Floyd and we don't know about this young 19-year-old killed?
I'll tell you why. Because if someone dies at the hand of law enforcement and that death was unnecessary because of
Tony Timpa.
Hold on.
Tony Timpa. Daniel Shaver.
And can I speak? The reason why the Floyd murder or killing is such a big deal is not because you can, for every name I give you, you can come up with a bunch of other people who were killed. But what I would argue is when someone dies at the hand of law enforcement, it's actually an act of crime on society as a whole. Because if you can't trust law enforcement and the criminal justice system, the whole thing breaks down. Then you're like one of these crazy countries where anything goes. So the same way, the opposite is also true. When a cop is killed, that's terrible. And nobody says, if you said, oh my God, hey, this cop was killed, assassinated by some criminal, and I said to you, I just read off a bunch of random names of people who died, you would be like, come on, Tom, when the life of a cop is you know, it's an attack on society. Well, it goes the other way too. When the cop kills someone and it shouldn't have, it is also an attack on society.
Like I said, I don't know if Daniel Chauvin, who was the cop that killed George Floyd, did it out of racial animus. We don't know whether it was murder or manslaughter. We don't know whether they had a personal interaction before.
It doesn't matter. If
we don't
someone
know. We don't know.
died unnecessarily due to excessive force, I don't care what his motives are. He could have been the nicest guy ever, but he's not doing his job.
Yeah, I agree, but it might not be. What I don't like about the BLM movement is it's basically painting the bad brush on American society, that we're a racist society and the police are systemic racism. You know, that's what you guys keep talking about. There's no systemic racism.
Well, wait a minute. I think what we're saying, like, this is a classic example of a lot of Trump supporters who basically frame every Democratic Party position as anti-American. Like, you're painting a brush, dragging America through the dirt. No, Democrats love America too. That's why we're so fired up.
The BLM movement, I saw people standing and jumping and burning flags. How's that American?
Well, you know, the First Amendment allows that, right? You remember you talked about the Constitution?
Yeah.
First Amendment, freedom of speech.
I'm not happy about that.
Okay, so that part of the Constitution you're not down with. Anyway, my point is, like, I am not in favor of burning the flag or trampling on it. I do think people have a right to do it, but I think the MAGA folks paint. Well, you talk about painting a broad brush. You're saying anyone who supports BLM like hates America.
What I'm saying is that the people are being brainwashed that America is a hateful, racist society, when the reality is that we're the most open and least racist society in the whole world, where people from every single nation, whether it be Europe or Asia or Latin America or Mexico or Russia, wherever, they want to move to America. You very, very seldom see Americans want to move to Africa.
So because people want to come here, we don't want to improve the country?
We can improve, but I'm kind of like, we live in a society of weak men and entitled teenagers, and a very entitled generation that doesn't know suffering and doesn't know, like, the beauty of hard work. And yes, we can improve, but they should also realize that this is really the greatest country in the world at the greatest point in time. Every single American is living probably better than emperors and kings from just a few centuries ago. And the GDP per capita of a Black American is several times higher than the GDP per capita of Somalia. So
therefore, if someone gets killed unnecessarily, they should just be happy?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying, look, you should reform the police. I don't think it's as big a problem as you guys are making it out to be, because of the numbers which I'm quoting you. Again, both of us are going to do the analysis. You're saying it's how many people killed per year by the police?
Over 1,000, and you said 50.
Okay, right. So we have a huge discrepancy in numbers, right? All right. So we're not going to get into it right now, but I'm just saying that America is a great country. And, you know, the BLM movement is painting a very bad picture, because I see this from people in Asia saying that, oh, America's full of hatred and full of racists. And I'm like, no, it's not. You guys are brainwashed watching all your news and stuff like that. America's a great country. In fact, you know.
Can't both statements be true? Can't America be an amazing, historic force for good, a great country with unparalleled contributions to progress, and also have a bunch of problems that need to be addressed? Like, why is it like love it or leave it? I don't understand that. Why can't you love it and
you want to talk
it?
about the love it or leave it about Ilhan Omar? Is that what you're talking about? When
I've heard the love it or leave it thing from the MAGA folks for a while now.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, like,
and so my point is, like, why can't
if America was so bad, then go back to your home country, you know?
Well, or if America could be better, why not make it better?
I agree with you. I'm not disagreeing. There should be improvement, but it's not as bad as the press is making it out to be.
I think
Okay.
I think actually the MAGA people want to believe that the Democrats think America is a complete shithole.
I'm hearing it from
I think you get energy from that. But
I don't know.
Sorry, most people don't think America's terrible.
I'm getting feedback from friends that are not even Democrat or Republican, not even American, saying that America's, in trouble based on the stupid news that we're watching.
Well, America has a lot of problems. Like, we have the worst performance of any developed country in dealing with COVID, right? The numbers show that.
We're not going to talk about COVID right now, right? We talked about that an hour ago.
Okay,
50 minutes.
Fine. We also have the worst outcomes for healthcare, but spend the most money for any developing country. Like, but that doesn't mean the instant answer is, well, get the hell out of here. Shouldn't the instant answer be like, oh, well, why is that? How can we improve it? What can we do to make this country better?
I would say, you know what? I would say, like, the police should be reformed, but also that we should also look at the family structure in America amongst our whole population and promote families and not try to promote the destruction of families. And again, I'm going to reach out to your UBI friends, because I'm going to say this. I'm totally against UBI, because if you have UBI, you're going to have more people have families and kids without being married. It's going to be a huge enabler of that. And you're just going to have more crime.
Why would you have more? But you don't get UBI for the kids.
Yeah, but if you have the UBI, you're more likely to have kids. Because okay, here's the whole thing.
Actually, the data doesn't show that.
The family structure in the past was that people were supporting each other. The mother and the father would work together to support each other. If you're giving the mother $1,000 a month for doing nothing, plus child welfare support and all that, then there's no motivation. She's not very motivated to marry the father.
So what the data shows is that when families have more income, they have less kids. That happens in every country. That's a fact. I mean, you know it. You look at any country, the rich families, they have less kids. Think about it.
Yes.
Do you see a lot of rich families with like 8 kids?
No.
So I don't know that having more resources necessarily means people start becoming like Octomom.
Oh, you know about the Octomom?
Yes, you brought it up in a previous live stream. So, all right. So on the Black Lives Matter thing, what is President Trump doing you said you're for improving the country. So what is he doing to help address the fairness of law enforcement and impartiality of law enforcement?
Well, he had the criminal justice reform.
What reform are you referring to?
Last year, didn't he pass some bill for criminal justice reform, freeing some prisoners?
Yeah, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about law enforcement use of force.
Yeah, so I don't know what he's done with that, to be honest.
So are you okay with that?
It's something that you guys should bring up. Like, what would you like him to do?
Well, what I would like him to do.
I think he's focusing on other issues right now.
Like what?
The COVID, right? The trade war. Trade war with China. Trade war with China.
So
I guess you would like.
I guess you would like. Priority is COVID. Well, he's doing a real good job of that.
I guess you would like a national review of all policing in the U.S. But this goes back to the fact that most major cities where all this police shootings are occurring, where all the crime is occurring, is, guess what? Democratic controlled, black mayor, black police chief, and black city council. So go figure.
The fact that you're calling out the race of the mayor and the police chief doesn't mean that.
There's
so
no
wait, hold on.
You can't have systemic. You can't have systemic racism when the man is your own man.
You can. You totally can.
Really? How does that work?
Well, basically, you give a person a position of power and you give them reasons not to change the system.
Well, then whose fault? Yeah. Then you guys should vote each other out.
No.
What should happen?
No.
Yes. Vote in the Republicans.
Okay.
Why don't you try that for a change?
Well, I think you have that in Florida. How's that working out for you?
Well, what about Chicago?
Illinois?
Atlanta.
Illinois governor?
Chicago is Lightfoot. She's Democrat.
Illinois governor. Yeah. So
City.
Okay, hold on.
Yes.
Here's what Trump could do if he cared about fairness of law enforcement. The same way that he's pressuring the schools to reopen, he could pressure the local law enforcement to do things like mandatory body cams, like attorney generals, Department of Justice, like reviews of lethal force cases, right? Invest in additional training for police officers. In fact, I would be in favor of actually increasing their salaries.
So you're not in favor. You're not in favor of defunding the police like the BLM people are screaming.
No, I'm not. Because you know what? The Democratic Party is super diverse, dude. I think your vision of the Democratic Party is what you hear from Republicans.
No, it's you guys are screaming defund the police. What's this whole Chaz?
You guys are screaming. Nobody's screaming defund.
Chaz.
I'm not Chaz. I'm Tom.
So you are the one Democrat that is not for defunding the police. The other 99.9% of the Democrats want to defund the police.
That's not true. I could look.
How many members of your audience are supporting defunding the police? I'm kind of curious.
Two things. One is, you know what defunding the police is about? It's about taking the money and applying it to like social services and other types of community development. So it's not this notion of just removing the police.
Well, that would make a lot of sense. Removing the police, and then, you know, who's that going to affect the worst is the low income inner city people if you remove the police.
Yeah, so that's why nobody's in favor of removing the police, dude. Let me look it up. Polls on defunding the police, because you think that 99% of Democrats are supporting it, right?
99.9%.
Okay, let's see what I can find here. And by the way, would you agree with what I was proposing? The body cams, more salary, more training, and federal investigation of all lethal killings?
Sure, go ahead.
All right, so is Trump supportive of that? I didn't hear him talk about it.
I don't know. I don't know if Trump is supportive. I don't work for Trump. If any Republican is out there, I want to volunteer.
Weren't you just telling people
I want to
vote
volunteer
him?
for the Trump. I want to volunteer for the Trump campaign. I've tried online many, many times. Every time I try to volunteer, they always trick me to try to give them more money. And I'm damn pissed off about that.
You're pissed off about the MAGA campaign?
I'm pissed off the MAGA campaign. On the link to volunteer is basically a donation drop.
Okay.
Yeah. So if anyone's watching this as part of the MAGA thing that can help me get involved with MAGA in a very substantial way, volunteering, my time, my services, activities, please let me know.
Oh, I've got good news for you, my friend. I have data.
Okay. About what?
Okay, about the Democrats supporting defunding. And I haven't looked at the numbers, so this could be embarrassing, but let's see.
Let's see.
All right, first of all, where is this? Oh, hold on. I've got too many tabs open. There it is, static, okay. Oh, it's a Fox News poll. Okay, so they're not probably going to be super in favor of supporting good old Trump. What is it? Why isn't that sharing? Hold on. Here it is. This one? Okay. Do you favor or oppose reducing funding for police departments and moving those funds to mental health, housing, and other social services? Right? This is the thing you're concerned about.
Yes.
Okay, favor versus oppose. 41% total favor.
Wow.
46% oppose.
41%
of all surveyed people. Now,
that's crazy.
Of Democrats, because you were asking about Democrats, you were saying not 99%. Only 60% of Democrats are in favor.
60% of Democrats. I write that down.
22
60% Dems.
22% of
Defund the
Republicans.
police.
22% of Republicans. 1 out of 5 Republicans.
Wow.
And 1 out of 3 independents. So, couple things here. First, I think you should agree that not all, you were saying all you guys are shouting defund the police, but you now understand that only 60% support moving funding from the police to social services, housing, and other community efforts. Can we at least agree on that, or do you not believe the Fox numbers?
Okay, so basically it's not 99.9%. As Tom mentioned, it's 60%, which means if I walk into a room of, Democrats, 6 out of 10 of you guys are going to be like hugely supportive of defunding the police, moving resources out of the police and into other social services.
Yes.
Correct?
And similarly, if you walked into a room of independents, 3 out of 10 would also support it.
Yeah, and they're all
if you moved into
brainwashed by BLM because of this. That's why I'm against the BLM.
But what about the 1 out of 5 Republicans? Are they brainwashed?
They're also brainwashed.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right, my friend, we are at the 1 hour mark. We should wrap up, but before we do so, are there any other points that you didn't feel like you had time to make?
Well, I mean, I have a look at my notes. I mean, basically, we covered a lot, I believe that Black people do not face systemic racism in the U.S. I mean, I live in a city which is 70% Hispanic, 20% Black, 1% Asian. I don't feel racism. I didn't feel racism during the COVID crisis. I have friends from Black, that are Black, friends that are Hispanic, and friends that are white. In fact, I think most of my friends in Miami were not born in the U.S. So if anyone understands minority or minority oppression or racism, it would be me more than a Black person.
Whoa. How could you say that? You've never been treated.
I've been discriminated, just so you know. I mean, I don't know if I told you when I was younger, I was just discriminated and given racial epithets and stuff done to me by Black people and white people. Yeah,
I get that. And I'm sorry that happened to you, but I don't know that makes you able to say that you don't feel Black people have suffered from racism.
Well, I'm saying in my particular situation in Miami, I'm the minority. I mean, Black people are 20%. The white people are 10%. Right? So that's by definition,
But there are plenty of examples in history where if you took the percentage of Black people in some southern states during the slaveholding days, they actually outnumbered the whites, but that doesn't mean there wasn't racism.
Okay, I get your point there. Okay.
All right, but at any rate, your main point is you think everybody, a lot of people are anti-American and are just kind of crapping on the country.
Look, yes. I want to say one thing. America is the most diverse and accepting country in the world. I mean, you look at everything from we've had Black Secretary of States, Secretary of Defense, President, Supreme Court, every single level of government and military, entertainment, 50 Cent, Will Smith, whatever, all these singers, all these Beyonce, all these people. You will not find the same thing like in Africa or in Europe. Like if you try to be a politician in Europe, good luck, because you're not from Europe. They're not as accepting as that. Whereas we have Ilhan Omar, who was born in Somalia, grew up in Mogadishu, who's now a congresswoman. It's amazing.
It is amazing.
We're so accepting. I mean, I don't agree with 100% of her views and all that, but I think that she's like a case study of how great America really is.
Yeah, I just don't know that those two statements are inconsistent or mutually exclusive. You could have a Black president and still have racism.
Yeah, I'm just saying, look, here's what I think we agree, that America has improvements to make. It's not perfect, and there can be improvements in the police system. But if you compare our situation for diversity compared to say China, and again, I'm not railing against China because, being Chinese, if you go to China, you say something wrong against the government, that you can get locked up. But I guarantee you, they don't have any foreigners that happen to be on the people's CCP, the Chinese Communist Party.
yeah.
They don't have any foreigners.
America can be the greatest country in the world and still can have lots of room for improvement.
Okay, I agree with you on that. So let's just, support the flag, improve America, and, make America great. I just hope
what's the deal with the flag? Like, what's this like? There's no war on the flag, dude. Why is that coming up?
And I'm against the whole kneeling by the Colin Kaepernick, because like if every single person with a pet peeve, like for example, wanted to kneel during the national anthem where millions of our troops died, I mean, that's just disgraceful, So what is it? Every single transgender or animal rights activist want to kneel down during the national anthem? I love animals, but I'm not about to kneel down. Now I'm a vegan, I'm not really for eating meat. So, then am I supposed to then kneel on the national anthem? No. You have to have respect for the flag, my friend.
But didn't those soldiers die to protect what makes America unique? And one of those things is a freedom of speech.
It just shows disrespect. It's a visceral feeling when I see someone disrespect the flag.
You could have that feeling, but you cannot tie military sacrifice to your opinion about people's expression of their personal beliefs. I mean, I would say kneeling during the national anthem is an example of what makes this country unique. Like if you did that in another country, like Russia or China, they probably lock you up.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want that, would you? You wouldn't want to lock up people for kneeling during the national anthem.
So I'm a big believer in rights, but I just wish that people in America would be more grateful and be, realize that, look, the GDP per capita of Somalia is $225. Ilhan Omar came from a country that has $225 GDP, and now she's making what, $100,000 as a congressman. I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah, I think that's true, but that doesn't mean that we stop improving, though.
I agree with you on that, Tom. I agree. We should keep improving. Yeah.
So what improvements are you most excited about for 2020 under a Trump administration? We'll end with that. And I'll tell you what I'm most excited about under a Biden administration. But you go first.
The main thing that I want is the trade. I think that we're going to tighten up our trade situation, improve the economy. I think that COVID will be well behind us, in the next 4 years. And, he's done a great job by locking up the supplies of remdesivir, whatever that antiviral drug. Trump is gonna do an amazing job. So I'm just saying, for all those people out there that were maybe sitting on the sidelines that voted for and gave money to Andrew Yang, that supported Trump, like the Trumper for Yang, hope you come back and vote for Trump, give money to the Trump campaign. Don't despair,
All right. And what I would say is, I don't know that you really said what you were excited about. I guess more tariffs on China.
I'm anti-globalism.
Right. Got it. Okay. What I'm excited about is having a president in the Oval Office who believes in science, who considers
Sleepy Joe.
Yes, who considers the views of his experts, and who acts with integrity. I'm also excited about his cabinet. I'm excited about replacing Betsy DeVos and Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump and Stephen Miller and Barr and that whole cabal of enablers. And then lastly, I'm really, really excited about focusing on 2024 and finding Andrew Yang to be our nominee. But we need a transitional administration, which will be the job of Joe Biden. And that's great.
Yeah, well, I think you just said that in another interview, that Biden wins. There's no way Yang will be able to run because you have a vice president that will be running. So
yeah, I disagree. I think people in 2022, when they start thinking about the 24 race, know that this was a very unique time and that Biden is not going to pick our next president for us. This is the country's decision. And so we're going to look at a broad field and we're going to pick the best person for the job. But
okay, well,
we'll see what happens. And I want to thank you, Peter, for coming on the show and being very unfiltered. This is the Peter that I deal with in the chat, in the private chat. And I think you're also advocating a view that a lot of people have that they don't vocalize. And so I appreciate you at least putting yourself out there. I disagree, as you know, with almost everything you said, but I appreciate you making your case. And if some people out there listen and they agree with you and they think about the logic and the data and they think that's the right call, then I can't stop them. And I support that.
I mean, if any Trumpers happen to be watching this that have a way for me to volunteer for real, please reach out to Tom, and Tom can pass on to me the details.
I promise I'll do that. But why do you want to what do you want to do for him?
I don't know what I want to do, but I don't want to just give money. I want to be active. I think he's going to get reelected, and I want to be part of it.
He must have offices set up all over Florida.
So frustrating. So frustrating.
Don't go through the website. Just call up the Florida office and say you want to volunteer. They're probably going to have you phone bank.
Yeah, I did. I did that. I called and left messages even last year, pre-COVID. They never called me back.
I don't know. Maybe they thought you're a part of the Nerds for Humanity Alliance. Trying to infiltrate. They were like, clearly he can't be pro-Trump because his brother hates him. All right, man. Look, buddy, it was good catching up. We'll see you next time.
Okay,
say goodbye, nerds. Bye, nerds.
Goodbye, nerds. Bye-bye.
All right, we're off the air.